I recently did a survey poll inside a few business Facebook groups to get a better understanding of what people are currently struggling with as I'm putting together a webinar series on content marketing to help people get unstuck. So there were 6 options in the poll to choose from, and the top 3 came in at repurposing content, using AI to create content, and editing. So in this episode of Content Catalyst, I'm going to share with you my ultimate guide to repurposing content for business growth and maximize your content in return on your investment, ROI. So content repurposing is where we take a piece of content that you've already created. You know, it might be a blog, it could be a podcast, it could even be a webinar, a social media video, and we transform it into different formats and we distribute it across various platforms. So for example, we might take a video and then we create shorts of that long form video, and then we might also create a blog out of it. You get what I'm saying? Okay, so why do we want to repurpose content? Well, it saves us time and effort. Creating quality content does take effort and it does take time. As I mentioned in my previous podcast, I shared 10 ways on how you can promote your business for free. The investment that you need to make, however, is your time. What we want to do is be as efficient as we can with our time. So this is why having a strategy, a content marketing strategy, will help you be able to repurpose content, because what we want to do is be strategic in what content we get. So I look at creating quality evergreen content, and then I look at creating seasonal content. So let's break that down a little bit further. So evergreen content is where you have a well-researched topic for your business, for your industry that people need. And an example of that is on YouTube. You can go onto YouTube, and a lot of good creators that make quality content say that they get views on their how-to videos 3 years down the track. So that's why I'm saying whenever you start with a good piece of researched content, it's easier to be able to repurpose that down the track. Now, there's also different formats of content as well. So let's say we're talking about photos. If you have photos, for example, and you've got a good photo library of assets, it makes it so much easier to create thumbnails for your videos, to be able to, make a landing page for your website. So we've got photography, then we have videos. Now, videos are obviously, my passion and my specialty. And one of the things about videos is it will help you be able to bring to life what you do. And I will repurpose content from 3 years ago. And that's what I mean about getting really good evergreen B-roll content. If we're talking about video, I look at B-roll video, and then I look at talking head video, A-roll. And so when you are doing interviews, for example, or you're doing talking head videos, if you have good generic information, you can snippet that information up and remix that content to create a new video. You can also use it for a voiceover and overlay some B-roll video. So B-roll video is essentially video of people, places, and product. And essentially it's you showing what you're doing. And if you look at any TV show or a movie, you'll see that they will have somebody talking underneath and they'll cut to a different shot every 2 to 3 seconds. Okay. And that's them overlaying B-roll over the commentary of what they're talking about. So we've got video. Then we have written format of content. So if you have, say, a blog, it might have started with having a book. And if you've got a book, it'll have chapters in it. So your book, you can break down into different blogs essentially and be able to repurpose that. So then you've got written content. To me, having a good content library allows you to use the written image and video content and be able to repurpose it many, many different ways. So let's look at a strategy, for example. When we have evergreen content, as I mentioned before, you're going to plan it, you're going to batch up that content. I have batch days where I will go, here's the content that I need for day-to-day things. If I've got a launch of a campaign or I've got a new product release, then I'll do up a big batching day. But I'll also be aware of how can I make it seasonal for that particular campaign, and how can I also get evergreen content. And I did a content day last week, and that was a bit of both. So we got talking head video, and then we also got B-roll clips and images as well. So then we look at seasonal content. So seasonal content is, for example, when you have, say, a summer campaign coming up, you're going to have talent dressed differently for your clips if you're doing video or photography than, say, if you're doing winter. So the difference between a seasonal campaign is you're dressed appropriately for that, and all the messaging is typical around it. So, for example, if I was a winery and I'm talking about hot sunny days or by the pool, that's going to be more like relevant to content in summertime. However, if I was talking about a nice, warm, big, rich red by the fire, obviously that's going to reflect the season of winter. So if we were looking at other seasons to do with clothing or food, for example, that's all relative as well, that you could take through the seasons, because if you were doing a cooking segment, you might have different recipes representing the seasonal ingredients at that time. So that's the difference when we start with having seasonal versus evergreen content. We look at batching days, we look at how we can batch up that content to do a little bit of both, essentially. Now, when you get that content, it is really important to then organize that content so it's easy to go back to. I have on my phone a lot of videos and photos, but I organize them into albums so it makes it really easy for me to pull out content 3 years ago. And I do that all the time, in fact. So these are some of the ways. But if we look at our strategy in the beginning, I always know coming into the month what I'm actually going to be talking about. So, for example, inside Content Catalyst, which is my Marketing Hub membership, this month we're talking about building a content library. So the types of content that we're talking about is how to build your assets, repurpose content, the tools that you need to do that, and also B-roll, because B-roll will help extend the life of whatever content that you've got. And B-roll, as I mentioned, is video of people, places, and product. So if we are looking at saving time and effort, we want to be able to look at our content categories. Now, as I mentioned, I have an overarching topic every month that I focus on, and then I have the subcategories, which I just explained then. So then once you have your subcategories, I have 4 of those subcategories. That's a content hero piece each week. Then if I've got a good B-roll library, I can then pull out those assets to help with promote that hero piece of topic that I'm talking about. In this instance, this podcast is actually about repurposing content. So I'm going to go back into my content library, and I'm going to look at what would represent that. It might represent me actually showing me taking videos. It might show me on the computer. It might show me filming things and editing things. And that would demonstrate me repurposing content. And then I can push that out across various platforms. But again, let's look at the strategy on how we do that, because a lot of the time people will go, well, how do I, get that blog and turn it into this and keep it consistent? Because the thing about repurposing content is that I can go into my my phone and I can look at reels from Instagram that I've already edited, but I know that I want to refresh that with a different hook, the starting part of it, or a different end screen because I'm going to use it for a different product. So because I edit out of the apps, I edit in CapCut, it means that I've already got that footage in CapCut, and I can just go in, change up a couple of clips, change up the headline and the text on there, and then all of a sudden I've got a brand new video. The other thing about repurposing content, it helps you reach a wider audience. So if we look at Google's 7-11-4 rule, and I've spoken about this in previous podcasts, that essentially is the modern buyer journey. So Google did a stack of research about the modern buyer journey of how to turn a stranger into a buyer and what that journey looked like. And essentially it takes about 7 hours of content that they research across 11 different platforms. And that could be your blogs, could be your website, it could be your social media. and across 4 different locations. So it could be a recommendation, it could be then coming to see you personally, it could be from a review, and it could be from your email that you've sent out, for example. But essentially, those key elements of that demonstrates that people will look in more than one place. So when people look in more than one place, it's really important that you think, how can I extend my message across different platforms? Because people learn different and people will absorb information differently as well. So for example, they might have an interest when they see an Instagram reel or listening to a podcast, but then you get an email that you send them and then with more information, and that sparks a curiosity. And then it might be an Instagram live that you've done that goes into a little bit more detail again. And then from there, it only takes that one post or that one blog or whatever it is that they've gone in that little bit more detail. It could be a review that they've read from someone or a recommendation. And that's the difference of when they've actually converted. So this is why it's important to look at taking your content, repackage it in different ways, because we learn differently as well, and especially we take in information differently on different platforms. So for example, LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, the research shows that you're more than likely going to be in a business headspace. You're not going to go on there at 10 o'clock at night and scroll for entertainment. You're going to go onto TikTok for that. So having content appropriate for each format is so important as well. So when we do that and we redistribute that information across the different platforms, it will also help boost our engagement and our SEO. So our discoverability is dependent, and look, this is the thing I talk about with Google at the moment. They're changing how you get found. Your discoverability is changing, and this is why I talk about video so much, because with AI technology, with ChatGPT, with Perplexity AI, these AI programs are scraping the internet for the information. And the more places that you come up, the more higher you will rank and increase your credibility. So therefore, if you are across, 10 different platforms with your information consistently, you're going to rank higher. And so the other thing to note when you have content, whether it's written content or visual content or talking head video content, is knowing your keywords. And you go, but if I've got B-roll, for example, and I'm making a video on Instagram, a reel, how do I get my keywords in there? Well, that comes down to how you use your text on screen, and it also impacts what you write in the captions, because these days the algorithms are so smart. They scan your video. If you've got a talking head video, the algorithm, you don't even need text on screen. It will literally scan what you say in the video and interpret that and look for those keywords. Now, of course, the more you add with titles and headings, it will help your audience, but not the algorithm necessarily. Okay, so it'll improve your discoverability and it will help you target new audience, and will also boost your engagement because you're achieving a bigger presence and ranking across different platforms. The other thing about what I'm going to share with you in my checklist on how I repurpose content is consistency. And the reason why I say this is because if I am disciplined enough to sit here and record this video podcast right now, I know that if I just do one 20-minute video a week, I have over 2 hours of content that I can create from that 20-minute video. And if we go back to Google's 7-11-4 rule of needing 7 hours of content for people to consume, I'm going to get to that mark in under a month to turn a stranger into a buyer. So being consistent is probably the biggest downfall that we all have, and being consistent is the most important thing to keep you relevant and top of mind. I get asked about quality over quantity. Doing what I'm about to share with you will help give you quality and quantity. So one of the things that we want to also look at as well is identifying your high-performing content already. So you know what is resonating with your audience. So the best thing to do is go back into your analytics. Now, if you've got a social media scheduler, for example, like Vista Social, I know Metrical's got a good one. I use Vista Social. It's got a really in-depth scheduler and reporting part in it. So I can actually put in my competitors and see what they're ranking for in their top videos, as well as my own. So if you go into your Instagram insights or your Meta insights, it will reveal a lot of information. If you have a podcast, go into Apple Podcast and look at your metrics in there. YouTube has phenomenal metrics. And what I say is that sometimes, and this comes back down to repurposing content, if you recorded something really, really good a year ago and it was your biggest ranking podcast, as in it got the most downloads, I would look at how can I get that podcast, that topic, and repackage it. I would give it a new heading. I would give it a little bit of a refresh and breathe new life into it and record a new version of it, because you knew it resonated with your audience. There was something in that piece of content that you shared in your podcast that was relevant to your audience. And when you know that, that's when the power becomes really potent of you being able to connect with your community. So the other thing, as I mentioned just briefly before about the difference between having appropriate content for each platform, you want to be thinking about, a piece of content on LinkedIn is going to be different to what you would share on TikTok. And it's just about understanding each of those platforms to create relevant information. For example, YouTube is all about creating how-to videos. A lot. I laughed about this with a friend of mine recently of going, you know how men don't like asking for instructions? Well, YouTube is the place that they go to get instructions. So they won't read the instruction manual, but they will type into YouTube how to. Okay, so and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the power of YouTube. And then I was talking to a businesswoman about this, and she goes, "Oh, I'm never on YouTube." And I went, "Okay." And we started talking about something, and she goes, "Yeah, actually, I was on YouTube and I researched that." I'm like, exactly. So YouTube has incredible insights, but it's a really powerful research how-to platform. So if you are creating your hero piece of content, then think about how does that become a how-to helpful piece of content for your audience. Use automation tools. Automation tools are really powerful for consistency, and it's really powerful for you to, be able to save a lot of time, essentially. And it will also help you to be able to look at the tasks that you don't need to be doing. So it helps you look at the tasks that you can outsource to your team, to a VA, for example. And once you have a system in place, and I'm going to share that system with you in a minute, then you'll see why you then only need to do the showing up, record the video, and the, as I call the golden goose content, is that the topic, you research it based on your audience and your business goals, and then you turn up, record the video podcast, and then hand it over to your team to repurpose and redistribute. Okay, so and I'm going to share with you my automation tools as well. Okay, so the other thing in repurposing content to consider is, I mentioned it before, is having a strategy but also a plan. So I have a 12-month planner, and each month I have my hero topic. So for example, last month we were talking about personal brand and talking on camera. This month is about content library and B-roll. So each month is a different topic, and then I create content based on that one hero topic. And then I also break it down into the subcategories from there. So 4 subcategories of that hero piece of content will give you content for the whole month. And when I say give you content, I'm talking about if you want to grow your business. If you want to maintain your business, then turn up once a week on Instagram and post a Canva tile. You do you. But if you want to actually grow your business, you need to be putting out quality content, and a lot of it consistently. And this is why I'm sharing this with you, so you don't get overwhelmed on how to do this. So let's look at what my breakdown, and I'm going to share with you my strategy on how and my workflow and my tools on how I do this. Now, while you can turn a blog into a video or an Instagram post, I like to work on a system that not only maximizes my time, but it also amplifies my message. So here is my workflow on how to take that hero topic for the month and break it down into 4 subtopics and then be able to distribute it across different platforms. So as I mentioned, my hero topic for the month is content library, and my 4 subtopics under content library are B-roll, repurposing content, editing and remixing that content, and batching days. So that's what I'm essentially going to talk about each week. This is my workflow that I work on. I start with what is my lead magnet? So my lead magnet for this podcast is I have a repurposing checklist guide that you can get. So that's going to take you to my website and you're going to get a valuable information, and then I can stay in touch with you and share other valuable pieces of information. So I already know that those topics I've researched, and I actually go over to Perplexity AI and I will research further repurposing content. I went over to Perplexity before I wrote this, the outline for this podcast, and I typed into Perplexity AI. I asked it, okay, I'm writing a podcast outline for Content Catalyst podcast about repurposing content, and I want you to provide 5 different options for a compelling hook based on my ideal avatar and my offer, and then provide an outline of what I can cover addressing those pain points. So that's what I typed into Perplexity. So then it gave me a list of compelling hooks, and then it outlined the pain points of my avatar in regards to repurposing content. So I asked it also, what are people looking up in online regarding repurposing content? And basically when I asked that question, it scans the whole internet looking for what people are typing in. So then I've then got all the things that it's actually like what people are typing into Google to do with repurposing content. Now, then I will actually go over to Google and I will actually put in repurpose, and I'm doing this as I'm speaking to you, repurposing content. When you Google something, it'll give you the explanation of it, but then it'll show you people also ask. This is a really powerful tool for you to use and to give you insights into what people are asking. And I know people talk about answer the public and that, but Google is just next level because it tells you exactly what they're actually typing in. So this is what people are asking. What is an example of repurposing? Is repurposing content illegal? It's interesting. Only if it's other people's content and you're not crediting them. And it's copyrighted. What is repurposing other people's content? What is the best app for repurposing content? So they are the questions that people are asking. Now, if I actually click on one of those things, it'll give me a little bit more information as well. So how do you repurpose one piece of content when I click on one of the drop downs? So going into Google is one of the biggest helpful tools that I find when I'm researching my content. I then go over to YouTube and I'll go to YouTube and I'll type in repurposing content. I'll look at the creators, the top creators in the videos that come up, and I'll look at what their hooks and their headlines are. And then I look at what are the highest viewed videos in that topic. Based on Perplexity, Google, and YouTube, I've got a pretty good idea of what resonates. Now, if you look at other creators, like I think of Diary of a CEO, Steve Bartlett, his podcast, for example, his video podcast, they will test 100 thumbnails before they release something to make sure that they're on point with the topic that they put out. So that's why I asked Perplexity, give me 5 compelling hooks based on what people are searching. So that's number 1. First thing is, first of all, I should say, know what your offer is, know what your lead magnet is. And the lead magnet is, where do you want people to go at the end of my video podcast? What do you want them to do? How can you help them? How can you give back value so they can work more with you. It's not about, I'm not sitting here going, I'm just giving out a lead magnet. I don't even like that word, lead magnet, but that's what people call it for reference. But I want to be able to share information with people that's valuable. And the more I do that, then the more, I guess, you're going to become familiar with me and then feel like, yes, I'm the person that you want to work with. That's essentially what you want in your funnel process. Okay, so then I go, once I've researched my hook and my headline and my topic, then I write an outline. And then when I write that outline, I will read through it. And so I'm not reading a script essentially, but it's just my points, my bullet points of what I want to cover in my topic for my video podcast. Okay, so once I do that, then I'll go and record. So I'm going to record, I don't know, I like to say I aim for 15-minute podcasts, but once I start talking on a topic that I'm really passionate about, I sometimes go really deep and can talk for 30, 40 minutes on it and have to, stop myself. So, aim for where you think that your audience is relevant, and wherever the information is relevant, what you've got to talk about. Don't just rabbit on for the sake of rabbiting on. Okay, so we're going to go over and record our video. Now, I use StreamYard, and I have played around with different programs and different ways of recording. I've used Zoom, I've used Riverside, I've used StreamYard, and I've circled back to StreamYard. And the reason why I have is because not only can I record my video podcast out of here, I can also record live streams out of here, and I can, distribute information across, 6 different platforms as if I want to go live. But I can also do other segments and things in StreamYard. I can edit inside StreamYard. I can edit this video podcast inside, and I can actually create short clips as well because they have a repurposing option now. So these are the things. And also with StreamYard, it's easy to download the information. I think Riverside for me was a little bit clunky with having to download. There was like about 3 steps to download things. It was annoying. I just want to press a button, get the information. Okay, so StreamYard, I record this video podcast in. Out of that, I then get my video. I download it. I don't edit inside StreamYard. I like to use a bit more advanced editing. So if you're not used to editing, StreamYard has got a really nice basic snip out the ends and off you go. But if you want a bit more advanced editing, I use Premiere Pro. In saying that, I have, because inside Content Catalyst membership I'm teaching people how to edit, and I want to be able to give them programs that are intuitive and user-friendly. So CapCut is what I use on my phone. However, it's got a desktop editor. So on the weekend, I spent the weekend just deep diving the rabbit hole of CapCut on the desktop, understanding, how to best use it so I can, share and train other people in how to use it as well for their editing. And it's such a great program. They have updated so many things in it, and I'm going to do a whole series on CapCut in another video podcast. But for this instance now, that's what I'm editing. I'm going to edit this video podcast in there, actually. And so it will transcribe the information. So will StreamYard, by the way. Most programs now will transcribe edit, so you can edit using the transcription, the words, and it'll also give you short clips as well. However, I like the bells and whistles that I can get with CapCut because I can put my intro music on the beginning and the end, and I can fade it in and fade it out and put end cards in and just do more editing. So that's why I edit out of StreamYard. So we've researched, we've recorded the video, we've taken that, we've downloaded the video and we've uploaded it into CapCut. We edit that video, and then once we do that, we're going to download it in a horizontal version, and that's the full video podcast. And I'm going to download 3 files out of CapCut. I'm going to download my MP4, I'm going to download my MP3, which is my podcast, and then I'm going to get the transcription. So I'm going to head over to Perplexity AI, and I'm going to ask Perplexity I'm going to upload the transcription, and I'm going to ask it for show notes and timestamps with the chapters. So it will take that transcription and it will analyze all the information out of it, and it'll give me show notes with the chapters that I can then upload, put into YouTube and my podcast. It's amazing. I was in a masterclass recently and somebody said, I use this program, that program, and this program. And I'm like, it's too many programs. I like to keep simple. I like to keep things nice and simple and efficient. And if I can use this program and that, then that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so then while I'm in perplexity with that transcription, I'm going to ask it to write out my blog. And I've already pretty much written my blog with my outline in the transcription. So I've trained it to be able to use my language and write out the blog. Then I'm going to ask it to also give me an email outline. So then while I'm doing this, I'm going to head over to YouTube. I'm going to upload that MP4 into YouTube with the show notes and my call to action, taking you through, and that link is going back to my website with my lead magnet, which in this case, it's going to be my repurposing guide. I'm going to go over to Kajabi because that's where my website is hosted, and I'm going to upload the podcast, so the MP3 clip of the video podcast, and I'm going to upload that into Kajabi, again with the show notes and the call to action. While I'm there, I'm also going to upload my blog into Kajabi. While things are uploading, I actually head over to Canva and I'll create my thumbnails. So because, again, I have templates for everything, it's really easy to write the title and put a new image and everything on there. And then while everything is uploading, I'll put it into in my blog. Now, in Kajabi, you can actually upload a video into your blog. It's something that I'm testing. And the reason why I'm testing it is because I do want people to go to YouTube to build my YouTube channel. However, I also am testing whether it's worth, for ranking purposes and for people reading it, to see the video clip as well. So that's what I'm testing at the moment, whether I include it there or not, or take them to YouTube. But Kajabi does have that feature. If you have, let's say, a WordPress website, put your blog on there and definitely embed your video for sure. So next step, I'm going to download my short clips. So in CapCut, it has a really, really good short clip maker. So that video that's now edited, CapCut edited 20 short clips for me the other day. 20. That's just like, wow. So that's like a whole month's worth of reels. Okay. Now, I'm not going to use all of those clips. I'm going to pick the best out. So I would probably pick out about 5 clips. You can actually go in and edit the information. Now, I know a lot of people are using Opus Clip and Munch, but again, I'm trying to cut back on all my subscriptions. And if I'm already a pro user of CapCut, which I am, I'm like $15 a month. Thank you. I'm not paying $50 for the script and all the things. I'm just going to keep it in one place. All right. So we've got my short clips, create an email. I'm going to head to LinkedIn, upload my blog to the newsletter as an article. And then I'm going to head over to Vista Social, which is my scheduler, to schedule out the posts and the short clips. I'm going to head over to Instagram stories. I'm going to share a video of what the podcast is about. So that would just be me talking to camera going, I just uploaded a podcast and it's about blah, 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 repurposing content. I would then do a screen record of the podcast when it's live. And I would also use that as a story with the link back to the, hey, click here to listen. I would then go live and tell people what the podcast is about. So just to recap, that's a lot, isn't it? It feels like a lot, but when you have the checklist to do it all, it's actually really simple. Okay, so the 5 tools. So to do all of this, I have 5 tools that I do it all. So Perplexity AI, that replaces ChatGPT for me. StreamYard, that is where I record everything. CapCut is where I edit everything. Canva is where I do all my visual creation. And Vista Social is where I do all my automation scheduling. So those 5 tools are my pick after experimenting with lots and lots of programs. Okay, so if I do all of that, And I can do that, like I said, I've created a 40-minute video right now. I think it's probably half an hour. But essentially, that's going to give me 2 hours of content, and that's 20 pieces. I can create at least 20 pieces of content across 10 different locations. Now, if you would like to get my repurposing guide, I will put that link in the show notes, and tag me on Instagram, because I'd love to know, has this been helpful for you? And if you'd like to know more, also head over to my website. Content Catalyst is my membership, and this is where we deep dive how to edit, how to repurpose content, and how to create content for your business growth. Thanks for listening. Until the next episode.